What's up, everybody? That's Gannin playing hot licks.
Frank Zappa.
Sweet sounds of a man. You got Mike Jackson here. I'm Adam. How are you? Episode 9. We're finally back together in the same room.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a while.
It's been a while.
So I think you had a topic, right? What was that?
Oh, I was listening to the radio about the Academy Awards, and it just struck me as something interesting. The show host was saying how ridiculous the Academy is because all the nominations are movies he's never heard of, no one's ever seen, they're not popular. It's and then I started thinking about, well, I guess it's two conversations. One is specifically about the concept of an Academy Award, and I guess you could argue whether or not they're doing it right, but the fact that there's sort of like this safety net, this catch-all for art. If we can say that still in today's age that filmmaking is an art and it's not just entertainment, you know.
Well, yeah.
And it's like, it's nice to know that there's somebody out there that's viewing it and experiencing it as art, and that there's some sort of recognition process. Again, you can argue like the
if indeed that's what the people watching are thinking.
Yeah, if it's being implemented properly, but
right.
the concept of, I mean, because what do we want the Academy Awards to be? Like, I felt like I wanted to talk to this talk show host and say, well, okay, let's do it your way. Then we don't even need to have a ceremony. We can just add up how much money and how many ticket sales there were, and then that's the winner. Is that what you want?
Right.
So,
yep.
I don't think he's not thinking it through. Of course, there's probably movies in there that you haven't heard of, and thank God, because that means there's somebody out there that's experienced enough and has the subtlety, the recognition of subtlety in what a film can be.
Right.
And that there are these great works of art that won't be viewed by the masses and that won't sell, 30 billion tickets at the box office, but that there's still a way for them to be like, hey, you know what, that's a work of art and we're going to recognize that. Like I said, you could argue whether or not that happens in a legitimate fashion.
Yeah, there was one year where I was a member of the Academy and I got sent all these movies on DVD and you're supposed to watch them and vote. But it's like, it's this funny thing where you could, as far as I know, I didn't do it because I knew that I wasn't going to do it right. So I'm like, well, if I'm not going to watch every movie and really dig into this, then I shouldn't do it at all. But I wonder what the criteria is, if you even really need to, if you're biased in some way, because everybody in the Academy, I think, are involved in the film industry, and obviously there's a whole marketing scheme, like, for your consideration, please, our movie.
That's the arguable part, is like, it's always going to be subjective, but, are they doing it right? To me, that's a separate issue. That's an implementation issue.
So let's talk about each part of it then, because we'll have to talk about it separately, or we'll just...
Well, I'm a big
Which
fan
part?
of the root, philosophical part of it.
Okay, so
a utopian view of what it could be.
Is art a race? Is art a contest? Can you be the winner of best piece of art? That's one of the philosophical undercurrents.
Yeah, but I guess...
Is there a best?
But see, like a movie is... It's writing that line between art and entertainment, which is very similar to what I do.
I think every art form does, though.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to be able to take it home with you, I guess. So if you're talking about pure entertainment, the first thing that pops into mind is like a roller coaster. Like it's in the moment, you're sitting down, you're having fun, you have the adrenaline pump, but then you go home and you're not really thinking about it. It's not something that touched you. It's not something that changed your life. And I would hope that, a song, a composition of some sort, a movie, it could be anything.
I would argue that that's why Disneyland is so amazing, is they've brought roller coasters to art. they've made artistic roller coasters. But
Interesting.
yeah, in a I totally agree with you. In a vacuum, that
Yeah,
just
some
the
sort of
pure art
adrenaline surge. I
Yeah.
get bungee jumping. How's that?
Yeah. Sorry. Being a laser beam. But yeah, I think. Well, the funny thing that came up when you said that too, that movies seem to be more the entertainment thing than an art thing. I think is partially because out of all the, especially the more notable art forms, movies have the most layers of art that comprise
sure.
the end result. So therefore,
Yeah.
first of all, they cost so much. You're dealing with potentially hundreds of artists to make this supposed one piece of art at the finished product. So then it's much easier to lose one person's vision. And I think the core of great art is one person's vision.
Yeah.
Being like, that's why a lot of the greatest films are like Scorsese. He's in.
You said that, and I immediately thought of, it was either last year or 2 years ago, the Grand Budapest Hotel, Wes Anderson.
There you go.
Got so much criticism when it won. And people, just hearing I listen to talk radio as much as I can. And just hearing all of the criticism of, this movie was slow, I couldn't get through it, and what is this thing? And it's the fact that movie won. I think it was the same year that Beck won Best Album. And I was like, something's right with the world. Like, it's being recognized. Like, we're not taking into consideration ticket sales. Like, this one because it was the most popular. This one, like,
Right.
people were actually digging down deep. And I have to admit, I hadn't listened to Beck's album until it won.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, something must be up here. And I checked it out, and it's amazing. I don't know how much it's going to sell. I don't know how much Grand Budapest made.
It might be a political thing too, like those movies and those albums. The people in the academies might think this year we have to go with something arty. Or they're gonna think this is all a sham.
Oh, that's an interesting angle.
Because that one year it'll be Taylor Swift wins a Grammy or something, and people will be like, "Oh my gosh, why her?" And the next year it's some extreme version of like, remember when Esperanza Spalding won, and people were like, "Who the hell is Esperanza Spalding?"
She's a bass player, right?
She's a jazz bassist, and people were like, "They don't know who she is. Why did she win?" They went to the pure, like the most extreme, it's either pop music or something a little bit more extreme, so people were kind of like, this is not a joke. This thing, they're really about art.
And maybe there's some guilt involved. Maybe there's some like, gotta have something in there that represents the arts, because this year I think Alabama Shakes might be the thing. I just looked on iTunes at like the Grammy nominees. We're talking about Academy Awards.
But I mean, we kind of shifted over into the implementation side of it, which I totally agree. There's like tons to question and scrutinize there. But philosophically, I think there's something cool about it. And you said is it a contest or a race? Is what you said.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go that far, but the recognition part of it to me is I think it's important. I think it's important that there's something out there, whether it's a subjective body or whatever. There's something out there that's going to say, the people in the know that this is good. This is quality. And there's a subtlety here that, it's not for everyone.
So it's kind of recognition from your peers is what it kind of should be a little bit.
Personal best.
It almost feels like to me that the best way to do it would be just for the sake of recognizing you can't have an award ceremony that goes on like Hanukkah, like for like 8 days or something. Okay, so let's pick a handful of the best this, the best that, the best the other. But I don't think there should be a winner. I think the whole idea of winning is more to just get viewers and to create that intensity where you got like 5 little boxes with everybody's face. Did I win or did I lose? And then like the pretend, oh yeah, I'm glad they won. Like when they don't win, they pretend like they're happy for the person who did.
Just
that whole thing.
The fact that there's like a division or a lack of recognition of popularity, I think is important at some point.
Well, you bring up a good point. I think in anything, in any art form, you have to have every piece to kind of, I guess what I'm trying to say is like you have to have a Frank Zappa, you have to have a Martin Scorsese, but you also need to have Madonna, and you also need to have Motley Crue, because the thing with the world is that everybody likes something different, so it's like it's diverse. So everybody's version of what they consider artistic is different too. Like we as high artistic people, because we've studied, We're the people that like spend the time gathering the information, knowing what's good, what's bad, what's blah blah blah. But the average consumer, that's a different thing.
I think you have those perfect storms of someone that could be considered pop music or pop art, whether it be film or some other composition.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can have that. We were just talking about Coldplay earlier. I think that's a good example. There's even Beck at some point in his career was very mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
But he was always artistic though. Like
very
Odelay
artistic.
was an artistic record.
Crazy
It just
artistic.
happened to hit the nerve of people that liked
Yeah,
collage
so
art.
I don't think pop, in a sense, is exempt from being recognized. I mean, I think a lot of the Taylor Swift stuff is awesome. I mean, it should be recognized.
But I'm with you. I mean, the thing is, it seems like it all needs to exist in the planet. Otherwise, it'd be a boring planet, you know. But what you're getting, but the point that is like kind of frustrating is that a lot of stuff that gets pushed to the forefront is the uber stuff that they know the head execs are like, this is going to sell. They don't give a chance to things that could be a slow grower. There's not enough. We don't have room. They don't seem to have the mindset or the budget to let something grow because they're too afraid of the result being a failure. So what they do is they go with the thing that sounds like candy. Oh, that's going to work. That's going to be cool. Or a movie. Like, there's lots of special effects in that one. I think that's going to win the kids over. Doesn't always do it either. That can fail just as badly as a song that's, like, artistic.
And it's kind of risk-taking and them acknowledging the reality of the pace of modern life and the ADD nature of things. It's like, you got to keep your attention. So it's almost like, I don't know, EPMs, explosions per minute or something in a movie. It's like, you got to make sure.
Yeah. But we're also talking about the U.S. too, because in Europe, movies can be very slow. You ever watch like I'm sure you have, of course you have, but a subtitled movie?
You know, it's funny. I just watched Amelie.
Yeah, that's a great example.
And I can't believe I waited 15 years to watch that.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Amazing.
But those movies tend to be more cerebral, more romantic in a sense. It depends on the movie, of course, but the way they view romance and stuff is very artistic. Where in the U.S. it's very like it's like When Harry Met Sally. It's like it's a very classic way of looking at it.
Although that's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie, but it's an Americanized version, like European version. It's like everything's different a little bit in Europe as it is in the U.S. So it's like it's funny.
What's rough about it is, well, first of all, I'm glad that technology is like catching up because it's getting cheaper to make movies, like great looking movies. You know, like the idea that you have to get that huge camera with 35mm film and develop it and all that stuff. Now you can make it cheaper. So like I remember thinking the year that there was two of the Best Picture nominees were There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men. And No Country for Old Men is one of those movies, and There Will Be Blood, that just starts out at this pace and just
You need to dig into it.
and it just like
It's dark.
you have to be patient, but I mean it's made so artfully that you're just like, what is going on? I don't think there's any dialogue for
Everything's
the
deliberate.
first 10 minutes.
That's the thing about those slow-paced movies. Is it's
so deliberate.
It's slow-paced because it's bringing something to your attention.
Right.
Whether they're really guiding you.
Yeah.
But both those movies, you know, if like you look, I know specifically looking into No Country for Old Men, and they have a hard time getting their movies funded, and that's the Coen brothers, man. Like, because they say, all right, you're giving me the money, you have no say in what I do. I make the movie.
Louis C.K. approach.
Yeah. Like for those of you who don't know, tell that quickly that story.
The Louis C.K. Yeah, that he took. I think you told me the story.
Yeah.
That
so I can tell if you want.
Yeah, he has his series Louis, and part of his deal was, I can't remember the monetary amount. Was it $100,000?
It was I think it was 200.
It was $200,000, or that's what he did. He went in and he said, "How much will you pay me to not be involved? For you to not be involved?" Basically, he didn't want any oversight, so he does all of the production, all the producing, all the directing, the writing, everything on his own, without any oversight, and he hands them the finished product. And so he's willing to take less money to keep them out of it. And if he wanted to go for the big bucks, they would have had oversight, they would have had decision making, veto power, and in this way he does what he wants, and you get a really quirky, unpredictable
Extremely
series.
unpredictable.
Especially like if you can watch like the whole one season, it's all over the place. It goes from drama to comedy to like awkward situations. Like it's almost like he's doing. It's not comedy like ha ha laugh.
Not at all.
The whole
Or
like,
rarely.
universe that he's in is just nuts. It's funny.
Yeah, you can tell he's really letting himself go on this creative journey. And if something's just, if an episode just doesn't need
dark,
to be
too.
funny, it's dark, it's awkward. Sometimes it's very avant-garde in ways, and like
That wouldn't happen with a committee. No way.
you can't do it. Remember what? Yeah, he said. The guy goes, "Well, I can write you." Remember it. The budget changed per season, but I know at one point it was like, "I can write you a $200,000 check, and nobody in the company will blink an eye. Any more than that, and I'm going to have to start involving committees." And Louis like, "I'll take it."
Mm-hmm.
So his budget, the writing budget, the entire crew, everything had to come out at $200,000. So he didn't make much, but he's killing it in comedy. So in a way, he's subsidizing his film or his TV career with comedy, but worked his butt off to get there.
Yeah, he's creating something unique that wouldn't otherwise exist. Which
And HBO's cool for that too. They're a cool they're a cool. What do you call it? Cables.
Yeah, it wasn't HBO, but it's similar.
Oh, wasn't HBO? I
No.
thought, was it Showtime?
It was a cable channel.
It's on Netflix. I'm not sure where it came from though.
Gosh, we should
I
know.
could have swore it was an HBO show.
No, it was like one of those. I want to find out because if anybody's going to look it up, but it was just cable. It was like
Oh, it's like a regular cable show. Weird. I always thought it was HBO show.
it's one of those non 1 through 13 channels, but
So anyway, we just rabbit holed into something.
FX.
Oh, okay,
FX.
Yeah.
That's another good station. That
I think it all has all of this stuff has it's kind of an umbrella theme.
And guess what? To add to your umbrella theme, he does it that way, and he ended up winning Emmy after Emmy after Emmy.
Yeah,
because
They took away the committee.
Well, I would say that he had even the possibility of winning an Emmy because there was some sort of expertise, some sort of subjective or not, expert group of people viewing that regardless of how popular it was and how much money it made.
Right.
Which I think goes like to the heart of everything that's I think that needs to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can tear the Academy apart for not doing it right, but I think that needs to exist, and specifically in my line of work, that's important to me too. That otherwise we should just have an applause meter, and you perform, you do your thing.
Who wins?
Yeah, and who won? Who got the most applause? And
Because I bet are there shows that you do where some people get more applause and you still end up winning?
it's been over the course of the last 20 years, which has pretty much been the life of the activity, this specific activity. It's gone full range, I think, from the group that is the most popular, that would win sort of an applause meter situation.
Yeah.
It's been legitimate. It's been like a perfect storm.
Okay, so they have all.
Yeah, but then there's also the groups that are really heady, and I think the idea is to create a system that's a level playing field where it's the experts judging. It's not the audience, and although something might be the audience favorite, they do have a fan favorite award. It's almost never the group that wins.
Yeah.
And that, whatever that means. But
I've seen things happen.
I think trying to keep the playing field level for at least that portion of things. Like this is some sort of competitive environment. It's not who sold the most tickets. It's not who's the most popular and who gets the most laughs or who gets the most applause. It's the experts looking at it and saying, this deserves recognition. This is something special. And
I think I totally agree with that, and I didn't want something to slip by because I think this is a super important thing for artists to, for me to preach to myself, but just for artists to realize is that like when you take the Louis C.K. example, that's honing your craft, being true to yourself, and persevering. That's the reason why. That's the core reason why he won those Emmys, because Louis C.K. had been a comic for something like 20 years. and he found himself maybe 10 years in. He started doing super personal comedy, and then it really got good, and then it took another 10 years, and he built an audience, and his stuff was just amazing, and his craft was there, and his art was there. Then he got to the point where he had a sustainable career, and he had the respect, and nobody could take that away from him. He had built that, and he didn't need anybody but himself and a microphone to like make a living. And then he wanted to do a TV show, and he had done a couple TV shows, and one of them failed, I think. But by the time he got to that point, he had gained the respect of an industry.
Right.
And
had he just been
him.
trying to, like, what can I do to make the most money, he wouldn't have found himself
in the position of being given the free reign.
Right. I
So
think Wes Anderson fits into that category.
For sure.
I mean, I don't know this, there's no data I can look at that tells me this, but when you just look at his body of work, clearly he's willing to take a pay cut to make the kind of movies he wants to make.
Yeah. And that's part of the genius, I think, of that we should all look for in ourselves, too, is like the ability to understand not only what we're capable of in terms of our given level of technical proficiency and stuff, but also like our resources. Like if you're out there and all you have is GarageBand and a guitar and a garage, if those are your parameters, like what can you make that's still great within those parameters, as opposed to thinking like, oh well, you could make a great acoustic record in that setting, but you couldn't make a great necessarily like orchestral record while filming 50 dancers. You'd have to fake it. So like what can you do at a legit level given your circumstances is a cool way to look at it. It's like I don't know, that's the way you're going to create something I think that's fully legit with what you have.
It also feels like younger generation needs to get in touch with their artistry. I don't think a lot of people know who the heck they are. I'm seeing that more prevalent now than ever. I think a lot of people start out and they kind of just go with because the attention span thing where everything's happening so fast, you're on your phone. There's no real attachment.
I think that's
to
what
anything.
we see. I think that's just what we see.
Yeah.
Is it? Well,
I think so.
It depends how close. We've seen it, like super close. What do you mean by that?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I think there are people like that. I think they're under the rocks. They're definitely not in some. There's no overt presentation of those more creative minds.
I'm sure there are people.
There's definitely a culture of the material gain, like more stuff, more likes.
Just dealing with artists and stuff. I mean, I just see a lot of artists that they're not attached to anything. They're empty vessels. They're attached to whatever comes at them at that moment. Entertainment, selling products, whatever it is. And I'd like to see more artists take responsibility for what they're actually trying to say. You know what I mean? Like you had that in the 70s. If somebody came out, they had a perspective. Maybe it was their feelings about the Vietnam War, their feelings about racism, or their feelings about being a misunderstood teenager, whatever it was. It seems like people had a perspective, and nowadays it feels like kids are coming up and they're just like, they're on YouTube and they're checking things out, and one guy's eating cereal, and you watch that and that's entertainment, you know what I mean? There's a group of people that are growing up watching this stuff, and it's kind of scary because what's going to happen is people aren't going to have a perspective. They're just going to have whatever's coming at them.
Yeah, it takes a lot more, I think, discipline these days to actually.
We sound like old men right now.
Well, but we work with a lot of young people, and I think that.
But this is
it's true though. But
no, it is. It absolutely is a culture shift, for sure.
But check it out. Like if I put a table in front of you and it had cookies, donuts, and carrots.
I'm on all of them.
You're on all of them. But you know what I mean? It's like what kid is going to choose the carrots?
Yeah.
So, but if all you had was carrots and the kid was hungry, carrots.
The educated kid.
That's another layer of it. But what I'm just saying is though, if you have your phone and your laptop, and you feel like fame and validation as a young person is just inches away, that's the donuts of that choice.
Sure.
Whereas putting down closing the laptop, putting down the phone, and finding yourself in an organic way, what's your truth? You're living your life. You're introverted instead of always looking out and always trying to like get validation for no reason, because you see it, you know, like Kardashian.
Yeah.
It's like that's one of the most successful businesses there is, and that's like one of the things that people can look at and go like, well, if that's all she has to do, maybe I could be famous.
Right.
That'd be awesome. Maybe I could be rich. Instead of thinking like looking to an artist who's spent the time on their craft and who's unique and original and expressing something meaningful and important, like you were talking about.
I think
It's
you
more
hit on
discipline.
like whenever you're sitting down to create, or maybe you're on the verge of completion of whatever you happen to be working on,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you're always in a place where you're not looking for something in return.
Mm-hmm.
That the completion of the creation was enough. And I think if you can stand behind what you've done and you can look at it and say, I don't need anything back from that, chances are that's true, genuine expression, that there's an authentic quality to that.
I'm a big believer in that. I think that if you are able to go from your start to your completion without worrying about what anybody else is going to think, not thinking about your audience, not being insecure about whether or not it's going to make you money, make you successful, make you liked, any of that stuff. If you can get around that first half of the circle and complete it, the next half is whoever's going to like it is going to like it, and you're going to be stoked.
That is that Philip Glass documentary right there. Like, you just summed the whole thing up. It's called Glass, A Portrait in 12 Parts, I believe. That's what it's called. You can check it out. It's on YouTube. I wasn't able to find it on any Netflix or anything like that.
It's on iTunes.
Should be on iTunes, yeah.
iTunes or YouTube. Wow, that's such an amazing, like, iconic figure who just has that attitude. Like,
He totally does.
He's
He's
like-
like,
he's
you
like
don't
this-
have to listen to my music.
yeah, you don't have to listen to my music.
He's like, there's Beatles, there's everything else. I'm not making you listen to me. If you
Yeah.
like it, good.
For example, a lot like that. Like a lot of the innovative people are kind of like they don't put down things either. They don't put down what's below them or what they consider. He doesn't care about pop music. He's like, consume that. That's all for you. But I'm here too. So if you want to consume what I'm doing, that's great. And I think a lot of the greatest visionary people are sort of like, it's cool if you guys want to have all that other stuff. That's not.
I don't
the
think
point.
Frank Zappa felt that way, but
He did. He
certainly
would.
Glass.
They'd ask him in interviews. They'd say, "What do you think of this?" He goes, "I think it's fine if that's what you want to consume."
Well,
Right, but he would also diss it.
He would do. Yeah, he certainly would.
Yeah.
I love how he.
But I know
he
what you
would
mean.
say-
It was more like, you do your thing, I'll do my thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Like they're not concerned about what's going on around them. They're more concerned about what they're doing. You know.
Which is almost I feel like there's a sweet spot. You know, like there's a sense of like, that sucks. Yeah, consume it. It's
Right.
horrible. But in some cases that may be true. But I think there's a sweet spot for artists where there's less negativity and more of like, consume that, but know what it is you're consuming.
Yeah.
You're eating a piece of candy.
I think we
Don't
touched
call
on,
it. We did touch on
We
that.
touched on that before, yeah.
Yeah. And what did you say? I remember.
Just
Don't call the dessert.
don't bill or don't market the dessert as being nutritious.
Yeah, I remember you said.
Full of
Yeah, the
nutrients.
dessert doesn't tell you I'm nutritious.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
But that's.
In terms of age, though, it's like you like the whole thing about being old. It's not so much. I think the way I see it is, it's not coming from an old perspective. I'm coming from a perspective of like, learn something, build your craft up. You know what I mean? It doesn't hurt to do that. Be aware of everything that's around you. Pop
Find your
music.
truth.
Find your truth and suck it all in. It's like take everything in. If you like jazz, take it in. If you like pop, if you like all that stuff, take it in and find out where you fit in the middle of everything that you like. You know, and I think I'm pretty in tune with like what younger people like. I'm not young myself, but I can see what there's a very specific kind of flavor, if you will, to what people are liking these days. You know, and I like it too. There's parts of it I think are great, but I also like John Coltrane just the same. You know, I'm trying to take the barriers down of like what I intake and what it means to me. But I'm also a person that spent a lot of time learning the craft.
Yeah, and it's
You know.
true. And pop music or pop film, anything that's like making the most money and getting the most eyes and ears, and getting the most money spent on it, and people chasing that because of those rewards. I think there's no more people that are great at pop music than there are that are great at some esoteric art. I don't believe that. I don't believe that just for some reason in this day and age, people are born liking that or born being good at doing it more so than any other time in history. I just think that it's so tantalizing to go after it if you're an artist, and then it gets fed to you, so it's the thing that you are marketed with the most. Like if there were 1,000 kinds of soap, but only one of them was marketed, most people would be using the marketed soap and not know about the other 999 brands of soap, because it's just what's out there. So I think that's in a way what pop music is, because when you really look at pop music, there's only a few pop artists that are really pop writers, pop singers that are really doing it, and you can tell like that's just as legit as this esoteric side indie band.
Justin Timberlake. I don't know, I just thought of that.
Justin Timberlake as a performer, Max Martin as a writer, like the list, there's a short list of very legitimate pop, writers, performers, artists, and all that stuff. And then there's a lot of people chasing it, and really they would rather be doing jazz. Or really, like, there's a part of me that thinks that, like Pharrell is somebody who's been able to make a living and be an artist, I think, that's really, really close to actually what he wants to do. He's like one of those fortunate ones who kind of straddles the old school and the new school. He's been able to move with the times because he's really unique. There's a lot of what he does. It's very jazz-oriented, and it's very
he's letting
minimalistic.
Whatever he loves come out. He's not putting a barrier up. Oh, I can't use that chord.
But he's certainly a smart businessman, and he
He's
knows
no dummy.
He knows what he's doing when it comes to like the relational part and the being a good guy, being a fair guy. You told me this, right? That he sort of has a rule about business-wise how he shares in his co-writing. It came out. It came out publicly that what happened with Blurred Lines.
Yeah.
That he shared 50% of the writing on Blurred Lines, even though he really did most of the work. And then when they got the lawsuit, came in, his co-writer, Mr. What's his name? What's his name?
Robin Thicke.
Robin Thicke. He goes, I didn't even write it.
I was on pharmaceuticals.
Oh man,
he totally sold him out.
I really like old Robin Thicke, man.
He's a great singer for sure.
I like his '90s stuff.
Yeah, when he first came out, he's actually pretty cool. It was like R&B throwback stuff. It was cool, but it kind of showed his character. What happened?
Yeah, that sucks.
When the going got rough, he was like, "I didn't have anything to do with that song," And then Pharrell to take the heat for all of it.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one.
That's like another subject in itself, character.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when there's something wrong with your character when opportunity controls your loyalty.
Yep.
I was
gonna save that for next week because I feel like I could do 2 hours on that.
All right, we'll dip back into that one, man.
I remember that. That's a great one. Say it again.
There's something wrong with your character when opportunity controls your loyalty.
Controls your loyalty. So poignant right now.
Ugh.
So poignant.
It really is, man. It's like, let's say we're partners, just to illustrate it, even though it's a fairly simple concept, but when you put it in an illustration, it really hits home. We're partners, but you're sick. So I go and get this incredible opportunity, to write to work with an artist or write a song with somebody. And instead of going, I'm going to have to do that, I'll talk to Gannin. Can we reschedule that for in a couple days? I go, yeah, let's do it. Come on, let's do it right now. Yeah. And I do it by myself, and I go, sorry, Gannin, you're sick. I got this great opportunity, and my character flaw was I took the money and run, took the opportunity for myself. Like, you find out who you are when you can make the right choice, no matter what the opportunity
When money's sitting in front of you, how do you react?
Money's a big one, man. Money and opportunity.
Money and fame.
Yeah, because opportunity usually means some sort of
it's a
situation where you can have...
Or money.
Yeah. Those are the big ones. Well,
by the way, I really liked your son's movie. Can people see that, like, online?
I think
it's a YouTube video, right?
Yeah, it's on Vimeo.
Vimeo, yeah.
Dude, his son, I love that video. It's just so, it's kind of bizarre, but I like the fact that it's eccentric, you know. But I think he's got a definite, like, he's artistic, though. It's cool.
Apparently it was like this whole impromptu, just
do it.
Yeah, they were just walking. They had just finished filming a project for some school project, and they were in the park. They were walking.
Yeah.
They had all their gear with them.
Yeah.
And they just said, "Hey, let's
Is it done?
let's make this up and let's film this thing and just see what happens." So there was no storyboarding or anything. It was like basically what you're seeing is a collection of improvised moments, and they just kind of made it into what it is with those parameters.
I love those kind of movies, though, that are sort of like, you can tell they're improvised a little bit. I didn't know for a fact that they were, but they have a feel to them. Like, they feel like they're sort of like off the cuff, you know? Like, they obviously had a general concept, but then they just kind of went for it. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it was no concept.
I don't know how they did it. I can't get inside.
I remember asking him, he said that they had thought of the overall idea, and then in post-production filled in the blanks that they didn't have, and then so it was a really cool way of doing it. And in a lot of ways, it's the way we write songs, where a lot of times we'll write half the song, and then we'll start recording the song, and then the recording will fuel the finishing the rest of the song. So you let like kind of the medium,
through discovery.
Well, the only reason I brought that up because I liked it, but secondly, I bring it up because it shows that there is a future. Like you were saying, there are people that are doing art.
Yeah.
That there are people underneath the surface that are really trying to do something cool and artistic because they haven't been jaded by having to make a living. They're doing it right now because they love doing it. There's none of that sort of like hidden guy behind you going, well, how am I going to get paid? You know, it's like, just let's have fun and make a movie, you know. Sometimes those can be the best works of art because you're not being ruled by anything. You're just going with your gut.
Yeah, there's two things in that too are like, one, he's got a cool situation at school. He's got like a great film program. Where's he going to school?
Canyon, Anaheim Hills.
Yeah, so he's got the situation there, and then he's got you for a dad, which helps.
Yeah, because you're
so it's like
all about
he's
that
got
stuff.
a dad who's an artist who can sit there and throughout his life has supported his creativity. Like if you don't have that, like I was blessed to have parents that were very supportive of what I did, and that's huge.
Yeah, for sure.
It can't be.
Yeah, my dad was always cool. He was always going to my guitar lessons, and we'd talk about afterwards, like, what was it like? And I'd make him listen to Alan Holdsworth or something esoteric, and he'd be totally into it. He's like, and when we'd show him like Eric Johnson, he's like, he got the parts that I got, and it was real bonding for us actually as father-son. It was like I had a very encouraging developmental growing period, you know, with my parents.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a parent. I mean, if you're
friend.
not lucky enough to have it, just getting around people who encourage you and cutting those people off that don't get who you are and what you do and aren't supportive of who you are.
Yeah, sure. But I love that idea. If there's anything to leave, I mean, there's many things we could say to leave off today, but from my perspective, one thing that I'd like to talk about is that we were talking about, well, for instance, starting, like today I've been messing around with Logic and doing tracks, and I made a mistake. I listened to song Sorry, and it really influenced the art of what I was trying to do, and I regretted it. And once I got knee deep into it, I felt like I was a failure. Like, I felt horrible afterwards. It's like, why do I feel so bad about this? And then I realized the best things I do are when I start with a clean slate. I just go with what I want to do. I don't think about another product. It was a real good lesson for me because when I went away from it, I was kind of, you guys probably didn't know this, but I was like a little depressed at lunch. I was like,
yeah, I couldn't tell why you were bummed.
I was just kind of like, gosh,
hoping I didn't
what a
say
waste
anything.
of time. And it was a learning lesson. Like, if I would have just started off clean and just do something, then I would have felt like, if it was a failure, it didn't matter because it was something that was inspirational and of the moment. But because I was being influenced by what I heard and saw, all of a sudden, the end result, if it doesn't work out, you feel like a failure.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing you're talking about with the whole circle thing.
You can say that about relationships.
Sure.
Like, you know, I had a girlfriend and we broke up. It was a waste of time. You know, was it?
Yeah,
Did
there's
you learn
always something to learn,
Was
and I
some
learned,
growth there?
don't do that.
There you go.
Yeah, and influences are highly complex. I mean, obviously, if you got a song stuck in your head, you got to unstick it before you can make a new song. But also, I think influences, they have to have had the ability to flow through you.
Yeah.
It has to be something you love, I think, and then it'll inevitably won't come out in the same form that it went in.
Right.
It'll be filtered through you, and I think that's a huge thing with influences.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Won't happen
Not a
again.
good idea to ingest
Because I love
art
making
and
tracks,
then-
but the track has to start
Right
from
before.
inspiration from within, not worrying about if it's going to work for so and so. Because you know what? Invariably, it probably won't. And if it doesn't, it could work for somebody else and whatever. But at least you're satisfied with the result.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying, doing something without expecting something back. Like if you work on a track or a song or anything, and you go away from the experience feeling fulfilled because you actually created it and that was enough, and you hope it'd be great if you got compensated for it. You know, there's nothing wrong being compensated for your work.
It's like the best art is selfish.
Self-centered.
Self-centered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for sure. We're not out there to try to make sequels to other art.
Well, it's a mistake anyways.
It's like you're making Star Wars 1 every time. Or what is it, 5? Which one's the first one? I don't understand it.
And the learning lesson in that too is that if you do try to copy something else that was already written or recorded, and you sound something like that, you're a loser because you're going to send that out, and the A&R guy who hears it in hopes of doing that like exchange, like I did it because it sounds similar and they're going to love it, and then they get it, they go, well, I already got that. I was hoping for something new.
Even though they asked for it, that whole system is broken because they're asking you.
You don't listen to it. You do what you feel is in your heart. What feels right.
That whole system of writing for the business is just it's broken because what they really want is something new, but their only way of asking you for something
is using their influences.
Is using
an
example.
Yeah.
Give us something like this, but not at all.
Yeah. Well, it's usually the A&R guy's aesthetic, so he'll put Duran Duran or some cool '80s band, or he'll put something new, so you get the whole spectrum. Yeah. I want classic. I want new. I want God knows what. And you're supposed to decipher that and say, okay, I know what that is, you know. But then their best bet is just to do what you like, and hopefully it works. If it doesn't, then
that's why I think the main problem is stop signing artists that don't have anything to say, so you don't have to figure out how to say it for them using other artists.
Yeah.
Instead, maybe as part of the signing process, if you're going to sign just a singer performer, that's still an artist.
Sure, interpreter.
But maybe look for their, their Jekyll to their Hyde. That's a bad example. But look for that person that's going to be their fit. That's why I really am a big believer in teams. Like, get find your George Martin. Like that's a huge reason why the Beatles were unique, and like you find that with big bands. They like Butch Vig Nirvana had Butch Vig and vice versa.
Yeah. And
they created this special thing.
Sound. It's more. You see it more in rock for sure. For some reason, I don't know why it's not as prevalent in pop.
Well, definitely, it is when it gets good.
Max Martin, that's true. He did the whole Taylor Swift record for the most part.
Dr. Luke and Katy Perry.
Yeah, it does happen.
When it happens,
it
really happens. I think there's something actually.
It's usually the newer artists coming up where it's a la carte, because they're going to hedge their bets.
And everybody's panicking. Yeah, they're hedging their bets. They're panicking.
And then the record sounds weird because you get the record and you're like you always say, attempted singles.
Yeah.
So true. I mean, it's
one
very.
Hit and 12
it's very rare that you hear a record and go, that sounds like it almost a hit, but I can see why it wasn't, and then I can see why that song's the single. It's like it'd be much better to have a record that was like overtly like trying to be artistic on certain songs and then being very commercial. Police were a great example of that. Sting would do his commercial songs, and then they'd put a song like Mother on the record where you're like, oh, I hated that song.
Yeah, that was because they had to let Andy Summers write one song.
Fortunately, I had to write a song. But Stuart Copeland's songs were always the ones that I liked the most.
Yeah,
I love Sting's songs, don't get me wrong. Of course, he's great. But I'm just saying, I always really liked his quirky... It was cool to have a record where there was a quirky guy in the band.
I just got Sting, Peter Gabriel tickets. I had to say that.
Ooh, are they're playing together?
Like, an hour before I got here, I just
great.
found out that my wife bought Sting,
That's awesome.
Peter Gabriel.
That is a co-bill that
Hollywood
is 20
Bowl.
years late.
It's kind of weird it's happening now, but it's cool it is. They probably have played together in the past.
It almost feels like they always have been playing together.
Yeah,
like
it's so similar artistically.
Yeah.
There's another two examples of people that had teams. Hugh Padgham.
And
then Peter Gabriel, Daniel Lanois, and among
Brian
other
Eno.
people, Brian Eno. It's like, I don't know if Brian Eno worked with Peter Gabriel. Maybe he did. But
He did on So.
That's what I thought. Yeah, somebody. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing.
You guys talked about Rush last week. Terry Brown.
Terry Brown. He did almost every Rush album.
That's like
a serious
ultimate
commitment.
partnership right there.
Yeah.
And then even the Peter Collins for the next 3. I think.
Yeah.
That was kind of its own little world as well.
What albums were those that he worked on?
All the electric albums. The Hold Your Fire, I think.
So the more 80s.
Power Windows, Grace Under Pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh, Terry Brown did do Grace Under Pressure?
Signals was last Terry Brown, I think.
Oh.
Okay.
I know too much about Rush.
All right, so we talked about Rush last week. What's your favorite Rush song?
I already told him Losing It.
Okay.
That was my favorite.
Oh, you guys already talked about it on.
I just asked him today.
Okay.
Offhand, yeah.
Losing It for sure. Which, other than the Odd Time, is very unrush.
Yeah.
Song.
Most emotional song.
We were saying that song had the most seamless integration of lyric and melody. There wasn't any like strange, mechanized, futuristic, scientific language that's sort of like hit you in the face a little bit.
Yeah.
Cygnus X1.
Yeah.
Did Dax and Our Pets is my favorite.
That's a great one. Yeah,
Julio.
Awesome. Great to talk
with you guys
amongst
the camera.
you guys.
Yeah, hopefully it's still running.
Yeah,
if it's
that's
not,
still going. We had a little blank spot in the middle. I would have to go back.
Okay.
That's because camera only runs for 30
The
minutes.
my son's video is called Red Eyes. It's on Vimeo. Nicolas Jackson, no H. If you want to check it out.
Yeah, I'll
That
put
sounds awesome.
I'll put a link on the end of this, or if I can get the actual video, I'll just stay tuned.
There we
Maybe
go.
I can just throw it on the end of the
The
podcast.
podcast, yeah.
Do a little ad. It's killer. He's going to be making feature films in the near future, I believe.
Talented. Peace.
Peace out. To the next time. That'll be episode number 10.
Sweet.
We're going to get a birthday cake.
Let's jam. Yeah, Mellotron, dude.
I got something.
Is that your new?
Yeah, I got jazz licks.
Wow.
This is dissolving.
Hey buddy! Hey, I like your glasses! Yeah. Wait, how are you doing that? The words. Oh, so like a disability? Oh. That's kind of weird, dude. You're kind of a freak. Hey, don't ignore me. Hey, look at me. I'm talking to you. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy, look over here. Hello?
Buddy, I don't know who you're talking to. I don't know who you're yelling at. Well, stop it. All right? I can see how red your eyes are from here. I can smell you.
Hey, buddy. Hey, I like your glasses.